Our lives were going about in a fast pace. Then one day in 2019, the world came under the attack of COVID 19. It seemed everything has come to a standstill. After 2 years of battling quarantine, lockdown, isolation, and waves of the pandemic, we are hopefully stepping into the post pandemic world.
Today we have with us Dr. Ishita Motilal. She is a child psychologist and has completed her graduation and masters from Delhi University, and she has been trained in the prestigious hospitals like RML. And we thank her immensely on behalf of Didis in Delhi for joining us today. In this meeting, we have our admin, Mrs. Devi Banerjee, and moderators of Didis in Delhi, Mrs. Shornali Basu, Mrs. Devasmita Devnath, and myself, Dr. Sholanki Roy Chaudhary. So it is time after 2 years that our lives are finally rolling back to normal, and almost with all the COVID restrictions withdrawn, we are stepping into the post-COVID era. Even though it gives us immense joy to see finally our lives going back to normal, at the same time, many of us parents are a little bit skeptical because of the challenges we expect our small children are going to face once they go back to normal schooling. Especially kids in the age group of 4 to 7, for the last 2 years, they have identified their classrooms with laptops and tablets only. They don't have any idea about what the normal classrooms look like, what is like sitting with their peer group, following commands from the teachers, staying away from parents and from the home environment. These things are there. So we know they will be able to adjust, but still we are a bit skeptical as parents. So today I am immensely thankful on behalf of DID to Ishita, as she has joined us, and she will be telling us and giving us some pointers about what things we should expect and how can we actually help our kids as they return back to their normal lives. So Ishita, it's now over to you, and we will be having, if we have any questions, then we'll be putting forward it to you. Thank you, Ishita.
All right. First of all, thanks a lot for this very warm welcome, and thanks a lot for inviting me. Thanks a lot for thinking about me when you were planning to discuss on a topic like this. So it's an honor to be here in front of you all. And so yes, first of all, I think COVID-19 has impacted every field equally, more or less. It has impacted every field in some way or the other. However, since children were just like they're budding, they're little buds who have not yet grown, so it has obviously impacted them more. As a child psychologist, when I have been looking at kids post COVID, and in this last 2 years of lockdown, I have personally felt that the kind of social emotional development that children had pre-COVID is very different from what we are seeing nowadays. A lot of children are facing immense difficulty in terms of interacting with others, in terms of relating with others, and in various other forms. A lot of times they even look like pseudo autism in children, and that is not really their fault. It is not even autism at most times. They are just developing in a delayed form just because of the entire situation that is around us at this point. So we have been seeing these changes, and now that the schools are reopening, I think it's a very big advantage to children at some level, because obviously they will be back to normal. They'll be able to learn the things and develop in the way they are supposed to. However, obviously this transition after these 2 years, this it's like an entire adjustment that they'll have to make. They'll have to learn, relearn, adjust, transition all at the age of say 4 to 7 years of age, which is too young for them to understand. So naturally that problem is going to be there. However, as parents, as teachers, or as people from the field of mental health, I think there are certain things that we can keep in mind. I would like to start with something around back to school anxiety. Now, back to school anxiety was seen earlier as well. This was an anxiety which we usually saw when children were going back after summer breaks, or they were starting a new session. This kind of an anxiety was present even then, because they were nervous about this new session or going back to school after 2 months of staying with their parents, enjoying with their grandparents, and everything like that. However, since COVID-19 has naturally made everything 10 times worse, similar is the situation here. So, in that case, as parents, what we can do to help our kids is one, I think very important is the thing that we listen to them, first of all. We often feel that the very small, what will they be even able to convey, or will they even be able to explain what they feel? Or we know, as parents, we know what they're feeling. A lot of times that acts as a barrier. A lot of times we assume things that probably are not the points of problem with the children. There is something completely different that the child is feeling. So I think it's very important, first of all, to listen to the child. Let the child convey whatever the child is feeling. If the child feels that he does not want to go to school, or he does not like listening to the teacher, or he does not like his friends, let him convey it, rather than outrightly dismissing, there's nothing to worry, or it's no big deal. No, everybody is going, you also go. No, it'll be okay. Rather than starting with that, I think it's important we first let the child convey what the child is feeling. One. Second, when we reply to them, it's very important, since these are stressful times, the child has to be responded in a way which, at least, these are just first basic things that we have to keep in mind. These are not steps, these are just basic things that we have to keep in mind at all times, because now the child is adjusting to something that he's not used to. So whenever we respond to the child, it's important that we respond with very reassuring terms. Do not use comparative terms like other kids are also doing it, or it's no big deal, we have also done it. The comparison often breaks a connection with the child, because the child starts to feel, Acha, maybe I am not good enough, or maybe they were superior to me, they could do it. The child loses that connect with the parent or whoever is telling that to them, because the child automatically starts to feel, then this is not like me. If the other person is saying हमने तो किया है, तुम भी करो, मेरे से तो नहीं हो रहा है, আমার থেকে তো হচ্ছে না, তো তার মানে I am different from these people. All right. So we start with reassuring terms like, I understand what you're feeling, in whatever language that you speak to the child. I understand it must be tough. I was talking to other parents. If you want to compare, I was talking to other parents. They were also saying that even their kids are facing a hard time. Your friends are also facing a hard time. Let them understand that we understand that they are nervous, that they are anxious, or they are scared of certain things. And that almost everybody is feeling that way. Let them know that first, and then we go on explaining them that, okay, maybe we tell them about the positives of how going to school would be better. So there are a few pointers that I wrote down that could be better when we deal with children. First, of course, listen, do not dismiss. This is one thing. Second, use reassuring words with the children, so as for the child to understand. I'm not sure how many of you are still feeling that those little kids, do they really understand that, the meaning of reassurance or something like that? Trust me, you'll be surprised how much that little child understands, and how much that little child understands his feelings. Okay. Then we can obviously highlight the positives. Like I was saying, you can always tell the child that, what are the benefits of going to school? You can go with your peers, you'll be a big boy or a big girl. And children a lot of times like to be like elder people like us for some reason. So you can always tell them that, you just like your mother goes out to office, or your father goes to his office, does his own work alone, you'll also be doing something like that. Then you'll have a loving teacher. Let's not be unrealistic, but also highlight what all positives come out from there. uh, Having friends, having games periods, having fun things. Not, let's not tell the child, I mean, that will not really motivate the child. We can also tell that you'll be studying. Depends on how, what the child is like. If the child loves to read, we can say that you'll have particular periods where you'll be allowed to read, or you'll play games, you'll play music. So you can highlight all the positives possible to the child. Lastly, there's this one thing that you can do which is not appropriate every time, because of certain situations, but you can also take help of the teachers. Apart from the parents, teachers also know what a hard time the child is facing. The teacher knows that they are adjusting. They're really little kids, they are trained like that for little kids. So they know that the child is having a hard time. We can always tell them, if your child is particularly facing an issue going to school, we can always say that, my child is anxious or something like that. Just keep an eye. She does not have to go around with him, or she does not have to make the child sit with her at all times. But we can always inform her that, yeah, my child is facing a difficulty. So maybe you can just keep an eye, so that he is interacting with others. If the child is eating lunch at least with somebody, or these basic things. One very important thing that I feel everybody should actually do, but I'll start with the first. Very important thing that we can do with children, especially this age group 4 to 7, which is fun as well as very important, and will help and ease out this process a lot. What is that? That is role plays. We use that in the clinical setups as well, when we are dealing with children. So we cannot always verbally explain everything to the child, right? Because there's a limitation to which a child can understand. However, role plays work beautifully when we are talking about certain difficulties that the child is facing. What we can do is, since before this child starts going to the school, we can indulge the child in role plays with us. If not us, we can also use a teddy bear. We use that with children, preschoolers. We use a teddy bear. We call it the teddy buddy. Okay, and we say, this is your friend, and we teach them, we tutor them how, in a new setup, if this is a new friend you're meeting, how will you become his friend? Okay, and now we make that child practice greeting, initiating conversation, playing, sharing. All of that we can attain by using the teddy buddy. If not a teddy buddy, if the child is not fond of teddies or stuffed toys or anything like that, you can always be doing it yourself. You can tell her that, pretend I am your friend. I am a new kid your age, and I am not your friend at all, and you have to make me your friend. Let's start. And then let the child enact whatever he'll do when he's making you your friend. This will give a lot of this will make him practice how to initiate conversation in the real life setting, but in a more secure environment. So we are making him practice the real life skill in a more secure environment, where he's comfortable with you, where he feels safe, he's not scared, he's not anxious. Okay, so we can always do something like this. We can go for role plays. And you will be amazed at the amount, the variety of skills we can teach a child through this. We can make the teddy or you handshake, hug when required, then say hello. You can be the voice behind the teddy and be like, hello, whatever the name is. Say, for example, I'm taking Arnav, and you take the teddy in front of you and you say, hi Arnav. Maybe he is initiating the conversation, the teddy buddy, and let your child reciprocate. And then you tell the child that, Acha, when your friend says hi Arnav, what do you say? The child will say hello, or you will have to maybe push it twice or thrice. What happens is, in this way, just give me a moment. Yeah. So what happens is, in this situation, the child unknowingly learns how to socialize. So now when, and through repetition, we have to constantly keep feeding it in his mind that this thing that we did today, where you were talking, where you made friends with everybody, you'll have to do the same thing when you go to school. You'll make new friends. And we remember how we made friends. We first shaked hands, then we said hi, then we asked his name, then we asked what he likes and where he lives and things like that, whatever we have practiced in that particular teddy buddy session. Okay, this is one thing that we can do. Apart from that, another important thing that we can do is, what happens is, like I think Dr. Solanki also gave me this question about having a routine. Children, obviously, they have been at home for the last 2 years, and they have practically had no routine as such. However, as a person from this field, I would advise all the parents to have a strict routine for your child. Now, this strict routine does not mean at morning 8 o'clock he has to get up, and by 9 he has to finish this, or by 9 to 10 he has to do this, just like we go for a school routine. But it is very important that the child has a particular routine. Routine in the sense, he wakes up at around the same time, more or less, say 9 to 10. In between 9 to 10 he wakes up. After 9 to 10, after he wakes up, he does a couple of things in the same sequence. So first he brushes his teeth, then he has his milk or water, then he has his breakfast, then he goes for a bath. Okay, these things, having the child go through a sequence of things every day makes it easier for the child to anyway adapt to any changing situation. Okay, so I would suggest that even now that we know that the schools are starting, and those children who have never been to school, we start putting them in this routine. We start with a particular time at which the child gets up. We can also approximate the time that the child would get up during the school. So maybe at this point the child is getting up at 9, but at school, when he has to go to school, he'll have to get up at, say, 7. Giving an example, a raw example. Try to get the child in the habit. Give me a minute, please. There's some sort of update notification that is coming up. Sorry. Were you saying something?
You are perfectly audible.
Okay. There was some notification coming here, I think, on my screen. Okay. So we can approximate that time at which the child will be going to school, and we can maybe start making the child get used to that routine that we'll have before and after school. So we obviously cannot put the child in a routine of what he or she will do in the school, because that the teachers will take care of. But at least before and after school, what the child does, we can at least put them in a habit of that. Even if we have like a week is enough for a child to fall into a routine. Okay, so we make sure that the child wakes up at around the same time every day. We make sure that the first 5 activities that the child does in the morning are in the same sequence. If the parent is planning to drop the child to school, let there be one parent who drops him every day. There is this sense of, this will reduce the anxiety greatly. Because one day the mother is going, one day the father is going, the child might be very much comfortable in letting go of the father's hand than it is as comfortable as letting go of the mother's hand. So let's keep all of that constant, because it's confusing times, everything is uncertain. We don't even know when this routine will change again. Maybe another wave comes in and this routine changes. But what is important is that the child has a routine intact. It helps the child process and organize material in his head. Anyway, even if there is no change going on, huge changes like a pandemic or any other thing also, we recommend this to parents anyway, that a basic routine is very important for the child's learning and organizing of information in the head. It basically makes compartments in the head. Okay, this after this after this after this. So it's like potty training. when we are toilet training a child, we are also telling them that you have to, take these steps one after the other. You have to first walk into the washroom, you have to then sit on this things, use the like put on the seat and everything, sit, and then flush, and then come out. All of that is in step. We do the same thing with his daily life as well. We put the child in a routine. So I think these two things will help you all greatly. One, the role play. It can be the teddy buddy, or you can do it with the child. And having the child in a routine, I think that is going to help you a lot, because if the child already gets in the habit of doing things that he's supposed to before going to school, uh, half of your problem will be solved anyway. The rest, I think, the child will understand with time. If your socialization practice is done, if your taking turns practice is done, we can give the child enough opportunities to do this. We can take him to play. Now, since the child is going to go out, I think it's also advisable that the parents start taking them out, even if it's for 20-30 minutes. I have seen a lot of parents who do not take their children out. It's a natural fear. The last 2 years have made the parents very skeptical of taking them out, making them, letting them shake hands with other friends, play with other friends, because it has been risky, no doubts. But now, since they'll be going to school, it can be a very sudden change. So before that, if we prepare the child, any child works better if the child is prepared. Even when there are guests at our place, we tell the child, right, that there'll be a guest at our place, you have to behave nicely, you have to do this, you'll help mama, do things like this. Similarly, when the child is going through a huge transition, it's very important the child is prepared that some kind of a transition is going to happen, and how the child has to behave post that change. Okay, so these are the kind of things. If there's something else that you want to ask, I am happy to answer.
I have one question to ask. In the beginning of the session, you said something about pseudo autism. Actually, I have, even with my kid, and also have seen many kids turning up in the hospital, that we see that kids around the age of 5-6 years, they have this problem of eye contact, and they are too shy to speak up. So how do we understand that whether this is pseudo autism or autism? How do we differentiate?
So honestly speaking, initially things look very similar for both the children. Those who have faced a delay in their development because of the COVID situations, or if that is autism, because a lot of times what happens even in autism, the child gains speech and then loses it again. So a lot of the symptoms are similar. Even in the pseudo autism that I was talking about, that also happens. In that also the same thing happens, that the child was speaking, and then the lockdown happened, and the child was so restricted in the home situation that the child stopped speaking. Now, the major difference between the two is with certain interventions. There are a lot of interventions that we can do. If required, you can send me a text separately, and I can send you a few articles or a few intervention lists that I have formed myself on what kind of activities we can do to improve on these things. The difference between the two is, with a child with the developmental delay leading to such symptoms, the child will start showing lot more improvement in through the intervention than a person with autism. The child with autism has a lot more complex reasons to the problems than just the developmental situation. So a person who has a developmental issue, they will respond much more quickly to the interventions. So we have interventions like where we increase the eye contact. So what we do is, I'm giving you an example or two. So a lot of children do not look up to their to other people's faces and eye. So we make them, we wear certain interesting things on our faces and make the child look and reinforce them immediately. The child forms a connection. What happens is, the child does not know the connection between looking up at the parent, why it is important. So we make that connection. If you look up at me, I will reinforce you. through a process of simultaneous reinforcement, the child understands that my parent becomes really happy when I look up at them, so it must be important. Once the child understands the importance of looking up, the child starts to repeat that behavior. Similarly, with name calling, children with autism tend to not respond to their names being called. So again, we use a process of a reinforcement where we call their name in a particular tone, not varied tones every time. And when they respond, we either clap for them or we we reinforce them in such a way that they understand that okay, responding to my name is a desirable thing and I have to do that. A lot of children are delayed. A lot of children have to be so with some children we have to put more efforts for them to understand what other kids understand generally. This is developmentally delayed children. However, with autism children, there might be a complete difference in their neurological setup. So because of that, simple interventions might not be able to bring in that kind of a change. So I think this is how, so we understand only after 3-4 months of intervention, or at least a month of intervention, how the child is responding. And then there are specified tests. Then we have these assessments like ISA. In India, we use ISA. By using those assessments also, we understand if the child falls in a particular category, if the child has mild, moderate autism, or if the child is normal and just has certain socialization issues or communication issues.
Thanks a lot for clearing this. আর কারো কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করার আছে? Swarnali.
I think she already covered my questions, which I forwarded to you, like most of my queries. Because to be very honest with you, that my child, he's 6 years old now, so he had not been to school. This is the first time. I mean, today is the first time he's going to school, and he's an introvert child. He don't like to mix with anyone. He is very happy with his own circle. So my initial fear was that, like, how will he react because yesterday when we went to school for his result, so when he saw his teacher for the first time, he was not looking at his teacher, though his teacher is also Bengali. He's asking him, and he went and shake hands, but he's not looking at her. He's like this, and like not looking at her. But today he's very happy. When he went to school, he's very happy. When he came back, he actually he was telling me every like this happened, this, that, and everything. So like my fear was that, like, if something happens, like if sometimes if the teacher scolds, then again he will not be able to connect with the teacher, because now the teacher is like suddenly coming out of the phone and like sitting in front of him. So that is why, because he don't like to mix with anyone. Whenever some guest is also coming to my place, he's not ready to mix up. So that is my question, like will he be able to deal it with him, like you, or like do I need to do something with him to make a routine, like?
Now it's important that we understand that introversion and extroversion are two kinds of personality traits, and none of the two are better than the other. It's not that extroverts are better and introverts have a little bit of a disadvantage, or extroverts are superior than the introverts. A lot of people tend to feel that way. It is not that extroverts have it easy all the time. Some of the very basic importance of benefits of being an introvert is most of the introverts are better academically, because usually introverts are those people who are stimulated intrinsically. They are motivated intrinsically. Extroverts need a lot of external stimulation to react and respond. Okay, so it is not that introverts have a difficulty adapting or adjusting to situations. Introverts are not people who are not social. They are selectively social. Okay, so they have a few people they are comfortable with. They have a comfort group. They might be very comfortable. They might talk the entire day with the people they love. They might have one friend who they can talk the entire day with. It's important as parents, we do not push them to be an extrovert. We do not push them to socialize with everybody. Our child is not like that. A child is an introvert, let's accept that and let him be comfortable with a few people. It might also be possible that he might get very comfortable with teacher and will have the same problem when he goes to the next session and has a different teacher. He will take time adjusting to that also. But that is okay. There we don't have to worry. That happens with almost every child. Okay, so that is not an issue. The thing is, yes, introverts take a little bit more time even making that one friend that he's comfortable with. So for that, maybe we can do all of these role plays that I spoke to you about. Another very important thing I wanted to tell this to everybody. Children usually follow the lead of their parents. If you as a parent are very anxious, very scared about this transition yourself, your child will be anxious, because the child feels, if my mother is so scared, it must be something really scary. All right, so it is very important that we show them it's nothing to be scared about, and remain calm while talking to them. Do not get so anxious or hyped up yourself. Nobody. It's very important that the child feels, no, it's nothing to be worried about. My parents are very chill about it. So I will be chill too, because the child feels, if my parents can do it, I can do it. If my parents can't do it, how will I do it? All right. So we'll have to, because we are their role models. Parents are our kids' role models, parents and teachers. So these two people have to be very careful about what they are conveying unknowingly to the child. So remain calm yourself. Try going for these role plays. If anybody needs it, you can. I'll send my number to Dr. Solanki has my number. She can share my number with you. I can give you certain activities that you can use with your child, which will help expand their interaction skills or the communication skills where they are lacking. But I think let's give them some time. They will get used to it themselves as well. Children are the most resilient people of all, and they bounce back like nobody else. I think we will still keep having problems with this entire change of lockdown and no lockdown, but kids will adjust faster to all of this.
Ishita, I'll interrupt you now. Actually, we are running out of time. There is only 5 minutes left. আর কারো কি কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করার আছে?
I think Ishita has covered all.
Oh.
So I think that's okay.
Okay.
Basic things all she has covered.
হ্যাঁ, দেবীদি তুমি কিছু বললে বলো।
না, আমি জাস্ট এটাই বলছি, I think that she has covered it all. আর তো সেরকম কিছু নেই।
নেই, আর কিছু বলার নেই।
হ্যাঁ, আর কিছু নেই।
Okay, thanks a lot, Ishita, for joining us today, and we are really very grateful to you. There are many doubts and many things coming in our mind, which has been very beautifully cleared by you. So with this, I'll end the session, and thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.